Governor, thank you for the opportunity to work with you on this. And if I may, I think we're probably going to hear from Brooke Rollins, but I'd like for her to unmute her mic as well and ask her to opine from time to time in my short period here that I'm going to talk, because she was a very important part of this. She worked in the governor's office as my deputy general counsel, and then she also came in as the head of the Texas Public Policy Foundation. And Brooke, you may have to mute yours because we're getting a little mixed minus there. But anyway, the point is the Public Policy Foundation was very helpful for me. If I could, Governor, I want to go back in time. My journey started in the mid 80s. As some of you may know, I got elected the first 3 times as a Democrat in the state of Texas. And in the late 80s and the early 90s, Texas got really hard on crime. We had a speaker, lieutenant governor, and 90 through 94, Ann Richards was our governor. And we decided we were going to get really tough on crime and send a message to the public out there that we're tough. And we did. We built a lot of prisons, spent billions of dollars. And as Pat Nolan's done a very good job of, we put a lot of kids in prison that we were mad at, but that we weren't afraid of. And what they did is once they got to prison, they learned how to be professional criminals. And so what we were doing, rather than educating them and helping them change their lives, we did change their lives, but in a really negative way. And we started creating a graduate school for criminals, if you will, in these prisons. So that went on for a decade. And the cost of that to the people of the state of Texas, more importantly, Governor, the lives that were lost. I mean, you know, in your ministry, the lives that have been saved in the prisons. And so many we sent there and we never were able to retrieve them because they became those professional criminals. They were lost forever. As I became a governor in the early 2000s, I think December of 2000 is when I took office. In the early 2000s, I had a conversation with a district judge, a Democrat district judge by the name of Crusoe from Dallas. And he asked me to really consider the concept of drug courts, of shock probation, of boot camps, to try to get these kids, grab their attention, put them back on a track, rather than sending them to prisons. And that, along with the criminal justice reform that I think we passed in about 2007. I think I'm doing an editorial that will come out in Tennessee because I want to share with your members of the legislature a number of things, the least of which is not how smart this direction is, how conservative it is, how economically wise it is. And having someone, I mean, you can call me a lot of things, which I have been called a lot of things in my political life, but soft on crime is not one of them. And we've been, in Texas, we believe in dispensing justice, but there's nothing just when the system is broken in the sense of you're either putting people in prison that don't deserve to be there because of the very few prosecutors that are out of line. Most prosecutors are good and honest and decent men and women who are trying to do their job. But we also need to clearly stand up when mistakes have been made and fix those. And that's what this legislation does. And my hat's really off to you from the standpoint of your Republican members, and for that matter, your Democrat members of the Tennessee legislature can go home to their constituents and say, we were really smart on crime. We saved X numbers of hundreds of millions or potentially even billions of dollars. When Brooke comes on, she will share with you the new numbers, and it is a stunning amount of money. And what Pat shared with you about the crime rate down in the early 60s. I mean, this should be parroted all across the country, and I'm really proud that and thankful that President Trump listened. He really gave proper thought to this, and he saw the wisdom in it, and he implemented that program at the federal level. And I want to wrap up with this: that's really our job as state legislators, as state executives like yourself. It's to be innovators in the states. Every state, we got 50 laboratories of innovation out there. We compete against each other. Man, when I was governor, I would try to recruit those businesses out of Nashville to come to Austin, out of California to Texas. Rick Scott and I had a great competition that went on between Florida and Texas, and Bobby Jindal and I. You know, they were great and wonderful friends, but boy, we were competitors. And the innovation that comes from the states. And I will tell you this, it's not just about having taxes and regulation and a legal system that doesn't over litigate, doesn't over regulate, doesn't overtax, and have a skilled workforce. Those are the four things that you do as a governor that makes your state competitive. But it's about putting innovations like this criminal justice reform in place that'll make Tennessee a place where people want to live, they want to move their business. And that's what your legislators, I hope, will recognize, just like Donald Trump did, that this isn't anything to run away from. This is something to embrace. This is something to stand up, and I want to run for my reelection with this. And I think the prosecutors, as they see their legislators, they see their constituents understanding how smart and how right and righteous this criminal justice reform is. Not only will it pass overwhelmingly, but Tennessee will be joining a litany of states that are laboratories of innovation that make this union a stronger place. Well done, Governor.
No, well done on your part, sir. Thank you for